Welcome to the All Things Admin Pro Training Series. My name is Julie Perrine. I'm the founder and CEO of All Things Admin, and I'm delighted to have you joining us for Career Organization. Your livelihood depends on it. We tend to think of organization as something that we apply to the papers on our desk or the projects that we're working on or the things that we encounter as we go about our work each day. But you also have to be organized in how you approach your career if you want to achieve your goals and enjoy success. I often receive emails from assistants who lose their jobs unexpectedly. There was no advance warning. Maybe it was a merger or an acquisition. They got downsized, reorged, or they had a sudden exit of an executive that suddenly leaves their career in turmoil. And the end result is usually the same. They're now looking for a job and they're totally unprepared to do it. And unfortunately, many people in this situation haven't properly organized the key documents and materials that support their career growth and development. They don't have an updated resume. They don't have a professional portfolio of work samples. They don't have a social media presence, or if they do, it's not one they keep current or up to date. And this makes a stressful time even worse. It also adds time to the job search because it's hard to start looking when you don't have these materials in place that support your search efforts. So keeping your career organized is even more important than an organized workspace because your livelihood depends on it. When I wrote my book, The Organized Admin, we created a career preparedness quiz to help you gauge how well you're doing in this area. If you haven't yet taken this quiz, I encourage you to go to the website, theorganizedadmin.com/career-preparedness-quiz. There are 15 questions that are all yes, no responses. And when you're finished, you can click submit and we will email you your quiz results along with the answers to each quiz question so that it gives you a guide for how to become more prepared as we go forward. I'm going to share a lot of tips and resources with you today, but I'm also going to encourage you to use this quiz as a little bit of a project plan for how to get more prepared than you currently are in some of these key areas that impact your career growth and development. Based on the results that we've received from those who have taken the quiz so far, most are falling in the action required or average range, and that's what we expected. But what this tells me is there's a lot of room for improvement for all of us. So even if you fall into the action required, don't fret. We're going to give you some key tips and strategies in this training event to help you move from action required into a better space of being prepared. If you fall into the average range, you're doing pretty good, and that's great. But there's always places where we can make additional tweaks and improvements. And so I encourage you to look at which ones you answered no to that you could turn into a yes and set a goal to take one step forward each day until you get another one achieved. And for those of you that may fall into the excellent, or if you're one of those people who hits that outstanding category, we want to talk to you because you're doing some things and I'm certain you've got some stories and some successes that you can share to help encourage others in these areas. And we'd love to hear more about how you do that and why this has become such a focus and such a priority for you. But what we're going to spend most of our time on today is helping you, if you're in that action required category, to get into a better space of being more prepared in some of the very key areas that will support you career-wise. The problem I see with many assistants is we are facing our career development or job search with the same approach that we've always taken. We hope our manager notices all the things that we're doing each day. We hope that our executives notice how much value we're adding to the projects we're working on. And we hope that our network is established enough to help us in a crisis, but maybe we aren't doing anything to proactively nurture or development until we have a dire need for it. And we think that maybe we're going to retire soon, so we don't pay as much attention to our career any longer like we used to. Or we think that a layoff or a merger or a downsizing won't happen to us until it does. And then it feels like the lights go black just when we need the spotlights to shine the brightest on our career successes, accomplishments, skills, and abilities. And I absolutely do not want this to happen to you. I've seen it happen so many times. The emails that we get are just heartbreaking when admins find themselves in these situations. So what I'm going to share are some specific strategies and tools that you need to ensure you're always prepared no matter what comes your way. Because I don't want you to feel that heartbreak that comes with being unprepared in a moment in life when certainly you're going to feel bad if you find yourself being downsized or out of a job. But the last thing you need is to compound that with not having any of these key documents to support getting you back on your feet sooner, prepared and ready to go. So when it comes to organizing anything, there are some basic principles. And to successfully organize something and to successfully stay organized in whatever that thing is, you need a system. So there are 4 basic organizing principles that can basically be applied to anything. And we're going to look at how to apply them to organizing your career. So first, those 4 basic organizing principles are: you gather similar items together, you contain them in something or some place, then you label the items that are contained, and you create a permanent home for them so that you can always find them or retrieve them quickly. And if you get them out and you use them, you put them back in that home that you've created for them when you're done. And that's how things stay organized. So when it comes to organizing some of these key documents and materials for your career, it's a similar concept. For me, I create a folder in my Dropbox that syncs across all of my devices. So it's accessible on my phone, it's accessible on my iPad, it's accessible on my laptop or any computer that I happen to be sitting at that I can log into my Dropbox account from. And what I recommend you do is create a folder called My Career. Now you'll notice on my computer here, I have an underscore in front of my so that it shows up at the very top of my documents list. And I like calling it My Career because then it shows up next to my documents. And so it's kind of a separate folder, but yet it's still in a similar visual spot from where you go to look for the other documents on your computer. So from there, that folder then has several subfolders. We're going to talk about all of these components in varying degrees today, but what I have done is created a separate subfolder for each category. So for business cards, for interview questions, for my professional headshot, for professional portfolio components, for a list of my references, my resumes, anything related to my social media sites, and my overall strategic career plan that I visit on a quarterly and annual basis to keep that current. So immediately I've gathered all of my items that relate to my career and those vital career documents into one spot. I've contained them in this folder. I have labeled individual folders for each item, and they have a home in my Dropbox folder on my computer. This is the first step in getting some organization added to your career documents, creating this system of folders and subfolders so that everything lives in one spot and you know exactly where to go to find it when you need it or when it needs to be updated. The second component of this then is synchronizing your digital and your print files. So I also have file folders in my desk drawer that correspond with these digital folders on my computer because I have printed business cards. I have samples of my cover letter. I have a list of interview questions. Sometimes I've scribbled things down in written form before I get them added to my list digitally. So I have those samples and those notes in file folders in my desk drawer that are quick and easy for me to access if I need them, or then also easy for me to add notes to my digital files to later. So Synchronizing your digital and your print files is good also because, especially with your professional portfolio, you're going to need the contents of your professional portfolio both in a digital format and in a print format so that you can show it to somebody in print, or you can use different components of it for your social media profiles or for samples that you may want to display on your digital portfolio online if you choose to create one of those. So having both a digital version and a print version that are pretty much mirroring one another will be helpful to you in this vein of getting more organized with your career documents. So with that kind of as our background, let's look first at what some of those key items are that you need in your job search toolkit. These are the items that I consider to be absolutely essential in helping you be prepared for any career change, whether it's expected or unexpected. And so I refer to this as your job search toolkit, and those key elements that are included in your job search toolkit are these 5 items: your resume, a cover letter sample or template that you can update and use for the various purposes that you'll need it, a professional portfolio, a LinkedIn profile, and personalized business cards. This is your career first aid kit. It's everything that you need to have ready at a moment's notice if a career change or opportunity crosses your desk. So this is simply your starting point. So let's look at the contents of your job search toolkit then a little more specifically. And the first thing we're going to look at is your resume. A polished resume is one of the most powerful tools that you have in your job search toolkit. And you have to put the time and effort into creating this positive professional representation of yourself. A lot of assistants have a resume, but a lot of them don't consider it a living, breathing document. To be effective, you need to be regularly updating your resume with your most recent job accomplishments and achievements. And if you haven't updated your resume in the past 3 months, this is your number one priority. You need to make a goal to update it before the end of this week. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it does need to be current. If you lose your job, then all you'll need to do is edit the material rather than starting from scratch. And if a job promotion comes along that requires an application, you have a current resume ready to submit on the spot. Not all job postings are listed for the same periods of time, so you have got to be prepared to act quickly if you want to be considered for opportunities that come along. And if you don't have a resume at all, it is critical that you get one created immediately. I had an assistant contact me a few years ago. She was a good friend. I knew her from a professional association that we both belonged to. She had started working for the company that she was working for right out of high school. And at that point, back in that day, you didn't need a resume when you started working. You just applied for the job and you got it. So, and not to mention, she didn't really have any work experience because she was coming straight out of high school. So she had worked for this company close to 20 years and had never had the need to develop a resume. So she had nothing, and she was getting downsized, reorged and downsized out of a job. She had absolutely nothing started for a resume. And so what I told her to do was to go to her human resources department, which she was still employed for another 5 or 6 weeks at that point. She knew it was they were actually helping her get some of these things in place. And I said, you've got to go to HR. You need to sit down with your HR file and you need to record every job title you've had and the dates that you had it and the salary that you made for each position. Now, thankfully, she still had access to that information, so she could get all of those things written down. Sometimes if you're already out of a job or you haven't had the opportunity to do that, it's a little harder, but you have to work backwards from where you currently are, look at the companies that you've worked for, the titles that you've had, pull any of that documentation that you may still have in your files together, and even if you can't do exact dates, even if you can do just the years that you worked for those companies, it's a starting point for you to get a resume assembled with. So the things that are going to go on to your resume if you don't have a current one, or if it's been a while since you've updated yours, are things, well, first of all, your name across the top, and if you have any specific certifications, whether that's a Microsoft certification or a project management certification, maybe an event planning certification. I have the Certified Administrative Professional credential from the International Association of Administrative Professionals. So the CAPOM is that credential. I'm also certified in the Myers-Briggs type indicator, so I have that included on mine. Personal branding statements, we'll talk a little bit more about this in just a moment, but those are some ways to basically create a positive first impression at the very top of your resume that tells someone who you are, what you do, and the results that you get. Your contact information is certainly part of that headline at the top of your resume then also. We're going to talk a little bit more when we talk about career or resume specifics here in a little bit, but the career profile statement, again, is kind of like your elevator pitch. It gives a brief summary of who you are, what you do, and the type of experience that you bring to the table in a high-level overview profile summary there. And then there are some different ways you can assemble your resume. The sample that I'm showing just a brief screenshot of on the screen right now takes the approach of highlighting your accomplishments and some of those specific job responsibilities that you've held over the course of your career, and then it keeps the work experience section separate and a little bit more concise instead of having the added detail of accomplishments and responsibilities for each specific job listed with that work experience. For me, this is what the stage of my career that I'm at, this is the best format for me. For you, it may be better to have your work experience follow that profile statement with specific accomplishments and responsibilities of each job listed with the respective work experience that you have. Every resume should be customized to the job you're applying for, and that may mean you're going to have some different formats. But what I recommend you start with is what I call a master resume, and that master resume should probably be 3, 4, 5 pages depending on how long you've worked. And then when you need it, you have all of that information in one file that you can then pare down to a 1 or 2 page format that is as concise and targeted for the job you're applying for as you need it to be. You should never send the same exact resume to 2 different positions. You're going to customize it based on keywords and things that are in that job description or the job application that you are looking at, and you're going to customize the listing of the accomplishments or the job responsibilities that are the most applicable to that position for each time you update and submit your resume. You definitely need to have your education section. If you have any specific certifications or any specific training or background that ties into the position, you'll want to include that. And if you have any leadership positions or leadership skills, those may be connected with association memberships that you've belonged to or other community organizations that you do work with. Those are things that you may want to think about including on your resume if you haven't previously as well. So this is kind of a high-level overview of some of the sections or components that you're going to want to think about including in your resume if you have one that needs to be updated or if you're starting from scratch and need to get one created. There are some resume templates that Microsoft Office has available. If you pull up a Word document and look under New Documents and you can search for resume templates, you can find some samples there. We also have some on our website at allthingsadmin.com that are available for purchase if you're looking for a resume template to get you started. So this is the first key component in your job search toolkit. The next one is the cover letter. There's a lot of debate and controversy on the web right now about whether or not the cover letter is dead. I will tell you this. It depends on what type of job you're applying for and what type of organization it is and how technologically advanced their job application tools are. Either way, you may not submit a formal cover letter any longer, but you're still probably going to have some sort of a cover email or some sort of a introductory, comments or something that you can submit even with an online application. So I still recommend you have some sort of a template for introducing who you are, explaining your qualifications, and the action that you'd like them to take based on what you're submitting. And so that cover letter template, whether it's an email or it's just notes that you type into a section on a digital job application format of some sort, you still need a good template that's ready to customize for each job opportunity. So that first paragraph typically is going to explain who you are, why you're writing, how you found out about the job. If there was a person who specifically referred you to it, sometimes it's good to mention those things there. The second paragraph typically talks about what you have to offer, summarizes your experience, your qualifications, specific skills, and the importance that you believe they bring to the position that you're seeking or that you're applying for. And so this is where you begin to start tying things in from the job description and incorporating some of those keywords even into your cover letter. The third paragraph typically suggests the course of action that you'd like the reader to take next. And that may be directing them to your digital portfolio online or to your LinkedIn profile so they can learn a little bit more about you in more detail in addition to what you've already provided in your resume. It may encourage them to connect with you by phone or to ask you to come in for an interview. So if you have tools like a digital portfolio or a current LinkedIn profile that you would like them to take a look at next, I encourage you to include those links in that cover letter or cover email so that they can begin to learn more about you before they ever call you in for the interview. The next area that we're going to look at in your job search toolkit then is the professional portfolio. Your professional portfolio is a combination of work experience, career highlights, personality type, proof of education and training, all combined into a visual display that allows somebody to learn a little more about your skills and abilities beyond the resume itself. I look at a professional portfolio as the best way for you to prove that you have the skills that are on your resume. It's what helps you showcase these skills and stand out in a way that becomes very notable because so few people do this. So whether you're job hunting or you're looking at a potential promotion or you just are looking for a better way to document your career accomplishments, a professional portfolio is one of the best ways for you to do that. And if you don't already have a professional portfolio of work samples, this is one thing I encourage you to put some immediate effort into and get one created. Developing a professional portfolio will help you be remembered not only in an interview scenario, but also at annual performance review time as well, because it allows you to make things visual, and people remember pictures. They remember work samples. They remember this beautiful binder that you've assembled and flipping through it page by page. And it will make you stand out, like I said, because so many people, I encourage people to do this all the time, but the number of people that I have interviewed who have actually brought work samples in, I can probably count on one hand. So a professional portfolio is this combination of your work samples, your educational background, letters of recommendation that you've compiled into a visually impactful package. So we're looking at things like having multiple copies or extra copies of your resume in there. If you've taken personality type assessments or a strengths finder assessment, having a copy of that report in there. Proof of your education and training that you've completed. Letters of recommendation, even screenshots of recommendations that you've received on LinkedIn if you have a LinkedIn profile. Work samples, that can include things like samples of your writing that show how you communicate, how you organize things in documents. It may be project plans or checklists or procedures, before and after screenshots of documents or databases or things that you've worked on. All of these things are potential work samples that you can include. If you belong to a professional association, proof of membership or leadership roles that you've held in those organizations can be great if that's applicable to you. If you do volunteer work or things with community organizations, whether that's through your place of employment or separately, those can be great things to showcase and highlight. If you've received any awards or special recognition, again, those are all things that you can showcase in a print version of your professional portfolio. Now, for your job search toolkit, when I'm talking about professional portfolios, I'm just talking about having a print version that you can physically take with you to an interview or hand to your supervisor before your annual performance review. We will talk more in just a few moments about a digital version and a social version of your portfolio as well. But to get started, having something in print is usually the basis for which you create all of your digital or social versions from as well. So starting with actual work samples that you can put in this physical binder so that you always have something available to show in an interview situation or in a review situation, or even just in one-on-ones when you're looking at professional development and goal setting for the upcoming year. It's what I looked at as a very professional representation of you because it shows actual work product that you've completed, and it's hard to argue with proof on paper when someone shows you something as powerful as this. The next component of your job search toolkit is a LinkedIn profile. With more than 400 million registered users worldwide, LinkedIn is one of the best social networking tools for assistants. And this site is a great online resume option for you also, and allows you to begin to connect with assistants from around the world. So it makes it a great tool for organizing your career, but also for networking and building that global network and making it stronger for when you need it also. LinkedIn gives you the opportunity to network with people, including HR teams and executives at your current company, as well as companies and executives that you may potentially like to work for. And when you begin forging relationships with some of these people now, you can get your foot in the door and get your name in front of them more quickly if and when the opportunity comes along that you are looking for a new position or sometimes forced into looking for a new position, even if it wasn't something you were actively seeking. Having some of these tools in place and your profile current and a network that you've begun to engage with and build is super valuable, because trying to do this after you need it instead of having it ready for when you need it is a whole different experience, and it takes a lot longer. You can't just suddenly show up on LinkedIn and start trying to connect with people and expect them to drop everything and suddenly help you get a job. You need to be nurturing these relationships as you go. And so that's why it's also important to have a current LinkedIn profile. Even if you're not active on LinkedIn during the week, or if you only get on there once a month and take a look at things, making sure that you have a visible and current and professional presence there is not hard to do. And some of the basic things I'll encourage you to do is to upload a professional photo of yourself. Most people are going to be more apt to connect with you if they can see who you are visually and that it's a real person behind this profile, not just somebody who's using it for other purposes. And so creating that positive first impression, we talk a lot in some of the training I do about personal branding. Please don't use a selfie. Please don't use a photo that you've cropped yourself out of a group of other people. Invest in getting a good professional photo of yourself. It doesn't have to cost a lot. All you need is one digital file that you can use on all of your social media profiles to professionally represent who you are. It doesn't matter if you have gray hair. It doesn't matter if you are older than some other candidates. A professional representation in the form of a photo can go a long way in helping create that positive first impression you're trying to create. no matter what your age and no matter what your skills and abilities. So again, we're creating a first impression with what they see when they come to your social media profile page here. So the next piece of that then is also making sure that you put, whether that's specific skills you have or specific job titles. For me, I've put founder and CEO of all things admin. That is my title, but there's more space and characters available there. Excuse me. So I've also added a few other things that I want people to know me for, and that's I'm a speaker and a trainer, I'm a procedures pro, I am an expert in the field of administrative topics. So for you, if you're really good if you're a Microsoft Office certified professional, add your Microsoft Office specialties there. If you're an event planner extraordinaire, highlight that there. We talked a little bit earlier when we were talking about resumes about creating personal branding statements, and I'll share more about that in just a few minutes. But again, if you have personal branding statements that you've created, you can include your job title and those personal branding statements here at the top of your LinkedIn profile page. Now, I can't show you the entire profile here. This is just a screenshot of the very top of mine, but you want to highlight your experience in education on your LinkedIn profile, showcase your skills, showcase your personality. If you've taken a personality assessment or a strengths finder assessment of any type, you can pull some sentences and descriptors right off of those personality profile reports and use those in letting people know who you are and how you work and what makes you uniquely you. And then you can also ask friends and colleagues that you've worked with on whether it's at your current company or past companies or in professional associations that you've worked with individuals on projects with, ask them for recommendations or endorsements and begin to build your profile from there. So getting started on LinkedIn is absolutely free. If you haven't dipped your toes in the social media waters yet, and from a professional perspective, you want to get started exploring it, LinkedIn is a great place to start. They also offer some free training. If you go to their About page, you can learn more about some of the training that they offer to help you get started in creating a good profile and a presence on LinkedIn as well. The last area that we will look at for your job search toolkit are personal business cards. Many companies provide employees with their own business cards, but if you want the ability to promote yourself professionally without the association of your current employer, then personal business cards are a must. And I actually look at these as something you should have anyway, because there are sometimes you don't want to have all of your corporate information on your business card. So I actually have multiple versions of multiple business cards, and depending on the event I'm at or the person I'm handing it to, not everybody gets the same business card from me. And so personal business cards, they aren't just for job seekers. It's for anyone who wants to make a professional impression and leave their contact details with somebody. So business cards are absolutely vital for networking, and it's really a tool that I think you should consider developing if you haven't already. So the most crucial part is obviously your contact information, including your name, phone number, and or email. And think about who you'll be handing these out to. You may not want to include a physical address on them. I know I don't on mine because I don't want my home address listed. So I include an email and a phone number, but I do not include my physical address. And then if you're active on social media sites like LinkedIn or Twitter or Facebook, these can be great options either for the front of the card or even for the back of your card, provided you're using them for professional purposes. If you have personal branding statements that you've developed, I encourage you to think about including those on here. If you have a digital professional portfolio site or a blog, linking or putting the link on here so that people can immediately be directed to that if they want to learn more about you is a great idea too. And so these are just another way of leaving another positive first impression with somebody after they meet you for the first time. And it's very simple to do. You can create these at home on your own computer. You can do it at a local copy store, however you want to do it, but get the clean edge business cards, and you can run them through your own printer, and they pop right out, and you can't even tell nowadays, like you used to be able to, when somebody had printed their own business cards, because Avery especially has made the clean edge business cards absolutely a beautiful option for creating your own cards and having them still look and feel professional instead of having those perforated edges like they used to. So this is one of those things that I think a lot of people unintentionally show up at professional events without business cards, either because their company doesn't provide them or they don't think they're that important. And that can mean missed opportunities, lost connections, and potentially even losing out on a job opportunity that you're looking for. So create some of these so that you always have them and can leave that lasting first impression and making a positive connection with somebody when you first met them. So these 5 elements of your job search toolkit then are at the core of keeping you organized and ready when changes come. But having them put together also means you need to keep them updated consistently. So this is what I'm going to encourage you to do to maintain these documents so that they're always ready. And the first one is to create a file, a digital file on your computer called 2000 and whatever the year is, accomplishments. And then I want you to create a shortcut to it on your computer desktop so that it's very quick and easy for you to open that file and add accomplishments to it at the end of the day or at the end of the week as you think of things. That will help you, 1, be more prepared for annual performance reviews, 2, be more prepared for updating your resume, and 3, give you ideas on things that you may want to include in your professional portfolio when you're making those updates as well. So logging those accomplishments, no matter how big or how small they may be, every day over the course of every week is going to give you a much better list to work from when it comes time to making some of these bigger updates on your resume and portfolios directly. The next thing then I want you to do is to create a physical file folder and a digital folder called Career Updates. So in that My Career folder, have a Career Updates digital folder, and then also have a file folder, a physical file folder that says Career Updates. And as you think of things, whether it's you need to remind yourself to add something to your resume, or you have a work sample that you pull out that you want to put in your portfolio, throw it in that Career Updates folder, either physically or digitally, throughout the month. And then what I'm going to encourage you to do is to create a monthly reminder on your Outlook tasks or calendar, or your Gmail calendar, however you keep track of things for yourself personally. And you're going to update your resume, update your portfolio, and update your LinkedIn profile monthly. It doesn't take that long when you look at it every month. Like, it's a matter of minutes, not hours. And so the first couple times you do it here, especially if it's been a while since you've touched it, it may take a little longer. But going forward then, if you just have a couple of accomplishments to add every month to that master resume file, or a couple of work samples to add to your portfolio, or a couple of accomplishments or a new item you've thought of that you could add to your LinkedIn profile, those things take minutes to do on a monthly basis. And it keeps you current, which makes you look like an absolute all-star when people come across your profiles and your information. So now we're going to spend a little time looking at going a little deeper on how to make your resume stand out. So having it be current is a great first step, but there are a lot of things that you can do to make it stand out even more than just having all of those basic sections included. Now, there are a lot of tips and pointers that resume writers and reviewers share online almost daily on sites like careerbuilder.com or careeralism.com. So I'm not going to tell you, which keywords to use or which ones to avoid. You can find all of those latest recommendations when you do a quick internet search. But what I am going to share with you are what I consider to be some of the lesser applied strategies that have made the biggest difference for the assistants that I have worked with and for me personally throughout my career. And those resume elements include personal branding statements, career profile statements, focusing on listing accomplishments versus just job responsibilities, putting quantifiable results that you have achieved in those accomplishments, and then highlighting leadership skills or specific areas of expertise that you have. So let's imagine this is your resume today. It's nicely formatted, experience is highlighted, looks pretty good, agree? Now let's say that you get a certification or two, and you add those to the header along with a profile statement highlighting some of your best skills and experience. Looks even better, right? What would happen if you amped things up a little and created 3 personal branding statements to create an even more powerful first impression? If you've never met me prior to looking at my resume, the first 3 things that I want you to think about me are boldly highlighted at the top of the page. And that's what I'm talking about when I am referring to a personal branding statement. Including a personal branding statement and a solid career profile statement on your resume is another way to make that very positive first impression. And if you don't have these resume components right now, then what I want you to do is to think about 3 words or short phrases that best describe the way you work, think, function, or perform professionally. Another way to think about this is, what are some of the things that people praise you for? You are really good at X. I really love the way you do this. What are some of those skills or things that make you stand out and make you really good at what you do? These are the first 3 things that you want your new potential employer to think when they hear your name. They are what people think of you when your name is mentioned. And so they're actually part of that personal brand that you deliver with how you function and how you do your work. And so creating these, now over the course of time, mine have evolved. I've had several versions of how I do that. It depends on kind of the mode I'm in or the type of job I might be applying for. But I recommend creating these, and then you can incorporate them into your business cards that we talked about, your references list, include them if you have like a stationery template for your cover letter if you're using that, on the top of your resume. You can even use them in the auto signature of your email. So spend some time thinking about who you are, what you do, and what you want people to think of you. If you've ever done like a strengths finder assessment or those personality profile sheets, they can have some really good words or phrases from those documents that best describe you to use here as well. So this is just some ideas to get you started. Create ones that are the most applicable and appropriate for who you are and what you do. We've talked about the career profile statement a little bit. I've got some samples here. Business people often refer to an elevator pitch when they're promoting their companies to someone who hasn't heard about them before. And so I look at this career profile statement as your personal elevator pitch. It's a brief, succinct statement of your professional experience and accomplishments that you can give people when they meet you or when they see your resume for the first time. So I'm not going to read these. These I believe are included in your handout. You can also find them in my book, The Organized Admin. We have a whole section on this in there. But these are just some ideas to get you started. Yours need to be uniquely suited to you. Don't just copy these. You can model them certainly, but create something that is meaningful and descriptive of who you are and what you do. We talked about accomplishments. Now your resume should highlight your accomplishments and look at measurable results that you achieve. When people are hiring you or when you're being considered for promotions, employers don't care about necessarily what your skills are or what the responsibilities of your last job were. They want to know, what is this person going to be able to do for me in this position? So when you can tell them what you've accomplished and quantify it in any way, that tells them, okay, if they were able to do this there, they're going to be able to come here and do it here as well. So did you create procedures or streamline processes? Did you make something more efficient? And if so, can you quantify the savings of time or money in doing that? This is another thing when you're thinking about your weekly accomplishments and you're logging things in that document that I told you to create and put the shortcut to on your desktop. Thinking about what you did in the terms of what did I save time on, what did I save money on, and certainly saving time equates to money. So starting to think in those terms will help you when you're logging your accomplishments going forward as well. Did you lead a project team or significantly contribute to one, even if it was in a support role? Make sure that you're highlighting those accomplishments as well. Think about any initiative that you took action on without being asked and get it on paper. Your resume should highlight your accomplishments with measurable results, not just the job duties that you performed on each job. So starting to think in these terms will make your resume a much higher impact resume when someone first sees it. When I talk about quantifiable results, here are some examples. Implemented X, which reduced average processing time by X hours or days or weeks or months. Increased productivity by 15% by implementing X, or saved $1,000 over a 12-month period by doing X. Putting things in quantifiable results of time savings, money savings, productivity increasing. These are all excellent ways of dictating or articulating those things. These are actual accomplishments off of some resumes that I have helped people with. So this will give you some real live examples to look at. So completed legal research projects, including one project that saved the company approximately $70,000. That's quantifiable. Retrieved $101,505 in unclaimed property from various states in 2010. This particular person's accomplishment on their resume was able to prove beyond the shadow of a doubt that they had more than they had saved the company more money or made more money for the company than this person's current salary was at that particular time. So that was a very good accomplishment for them to have quantified in those terms, because it made giving this person a raise at annual performance review time look like a no-brainer, because even if with a raise, they still weren't coming anywhere near to making this salary amount. Managed the preparation and filing of merger documentation with 45 states and facilitated approvals with the state regulatory agencies, which set a department record for quickest completion of the approval process. So these are ways, accomplishments don't have to be just, short little sentences. You can give some detail and explain to them, this is what I did and this is the impact that it had on making my company work better, save money, be more productive, etc. These are some other ones. Actually, these are from my personal resume. Created, implemented, and maintained an administrative assistant training manual for my division's administrative assistant team. Coordinated and directed 3 corporate office moves for clients moving into newer and larger facilities, including managing the day-to-day construction schedules, scheduling movers, selecting and ordering furniture, and working with building owners to facilitate the details. So you've done things like this. Find ways to get them captured so that you can create accomplishments that add some power and impact to your resume directly. Leadership skills and areas of expertise. This is one area that we tend to not be as comfortable with because we're not sure, what counts as a leadership skill and what doesn't. Well, anything where you have been involved in projects or committee positions, or whether it's at the office or in professional organizations that you've worked with, or maybe it's a charity event that your company sponsors and you've been involved in some of the planning for those. Those are leadership skills. Those are leadership activities, and your involvement in those things makes a difference. So finding ways to highlight those on your resume, whether it's under a section called leadership skills or whether it's just, professional associations and community work or whatever it's called. Again, with your personal branding statements, sometimes you can incorporate some of your areas of expertise there. If you have a specific, you're really good with PowerPoint presentations, or you're really good with event planning, sometimes working those into your personal branding statements can kind of have that flow throughout from the very beginning to a section where maybe you have specific software or soft skills that you highlight. And again, honors or awards that you've received. These don't necessarily have to be like nationally recognized honors. If you received a department award for customer service, or for, brightening someone's day, whatever those things were, it may not be something that you necessarily want to highlight on your resume depending on the application of it, but having that to highlight in your professional portfolio is certainly appropriate. So these are just other ways that you can think about how to make your resume stand out by including some of these key areas that employers are looking for when they are hiring administrative professionals. Now we're going to look a little bit more at the professional portfolio concept specifically. I'm going to highlight 3 ways that you can showcase your skills using a print portfolio, which we've already talked a little bit about, a social portfolio, and a digital portfolio. And together, these 3 strategies create what I refer to as a comprehensive professional portfolio strategy. Even if you only choose to implement one of these key strategies, you are going to benefit from it. And the great part is that when you start with the print portfolio first, like we talked about in your job search toolkit, you will have a lot of the work already done for creating the social and digital versions. So let me explain. So first of all, the first version we've already talked about is this print portfolio. And it is awesome for annual performance review time. It's great for job interviewing. It is an awesome way for you to capture highlights of your career, some of those career bests, and it allows you to differentiate yourself from all of the other potential candidates, especially in a job interview situation, because it reinforces visually the skills and experience that you have on your resume. And people will remember you because of your professional portfolio. I've seen it happen time and time again. In fact, I have a friend who used her print portfolio in an interview with a COO that she was interviewing with, that she would be supporting, and the guy wanted to hire her on the spot because of her print portfolio. And the HR person who was also in the interview was like, we need to finish our interview process here first, we'll be in touch. So it really is that powerful. And so the next component then is what I call your social portfolio. And this is an awesome tool with all of the digital components that are part of the world we live in today. If you want to be seen as a relevant, current, connected, and established professional, you have to have a social presence of some sort. And LinkedIn is one of the best places for you to have that from a professional perspective. So LinkedIn.com is the one I would recommend the most for a social portfolio, although I've seen people use other sites like Facebook or Twitter or combinations of the above. And so your social portfolio is a fantastic tool for helping you stay top of mind with current employers and prospective employers alike. And it helps you share accomplishments, successes, tips, resources, specific expertise that you may have. And so it shows you're connected. It shows that you are invested in doing things to proactively be prepared and on top of things career-wise. And I have one company that I talked to an assistant from. She works in a marketing in the marketing industry and for a big marketing firm. And at her company in particular, if you are not referred by somebody internally, and if you do not have a social media presence on Facebook and LinkedIn, they will not even call you in for an interview because you're deemed as not being as with it and relevant in the 21st century workplace as they want you to be if you're going to work for them. So something to keep in mind if social media isn't something you've really wanted to do much with yet, LinkedIn from a professional perspective is one place I would consider you to maybe think about it or make an exception. and give it a try. The third piece then is the digital portfolio. And if you really want to get serious about your career and boosting your professional visibility, this is the tool for the job. It's a combination of your print portfolio and your social portfolio taken to a whole new level. And it gives you your own dedicated site that is all about you. So imagine if you're receiving 100 resumes, and at the top of one of those resumes, you happen to notice a website URL next to the person's name. So you type it in, and up comes this digital portfolio site of work samples that you can view before you ever call them in for an interview. As I like to say, they start to fall in love with you before they've even met you. And these are not just things that job seekers do. These are things that established professionals do to build their brand, share their expertise, and stay visible in their profession. Because the whole point here is we never know when things are going to change, and we need to immediately be able to activate our network. And so you want these tools created and in place to support you no matter what happens there. So these three components, the print portfolio, the social portfolio, and the digital portfolio, come together to create that comprehensive professional portfolio strategy. And when you think about it, your print portfolio actually becomes a very powerful representation of who you are from a work sample perspective all on its own. You can use creative colors and themes and carry that throughout to make that powerful first impression. And then you can certainly use that in carrying it through to have it visually represent and look similarly on your digital portfolio site, or even in some of the work samples or things you share on your LinkedIn profile. Now remember the resume that we were looking at earlier with the personal branding statements added to it? Now imagine if you could add a web URL to that first impression, a place where the prospective employer or hiring manager could see samples of your work before they ever call you in for the interview. We've just taken a nice resume and made it a high impact, personally branded, I'm going to get someone's attention resume. We've got personal branding statements on here. We've got a digital portfolio site. We've got their credentials. Without knowing a thing about me, if this resume crossed your desk, this is the first impression that I have just indelibly put on your mind about who I am, what my skills and abilities are, what my specific areas of expertise are, and this is going to get you noticed. So that digital portfolio is not something that requires special web skills. There are a lot of free tools out there. WordPress.com is one of my favorites, because if you ever choose to take it and turn it into a dedicated website or blog site on your own hosted platform, you can do it very easily from WordPress.com. WordPress.com is free, and you can create just a static website like I've done here for my digital portfolio site. That is a sample for you to go and take a look at. You can also turn on the blogging feature if you want to amp up your media presence and share some of your personal best practices, tips, areas of expertise that you want to share with the public. And this is a way for you to reinforce what you know, what you're really good at, and how you share that information with others socially through your blog or through your social media sites. Can be a great way to highlight those things. On mine, I've got things on event planning, travel planning, website work I've done. You can use pictures, you can do screenshots, you can have it be kind of a bulleted list highlighting what you want people to know about that particular event or that particular work sample. I encourage you to think about just including the best of the best, not everything you have in your print portfolio, because what you want to do is pique their interest so that they still need to call you in to learn a little bit more about you, and then if appropriate you can certainly show them more work samples in the print version. So this is just again another sample to help you kind of catch a vision of what you might be able to do with it if you choose to for a digital portfolio yourself. This leveraging social media, we've already talked about having a LinkedIn profile as part of your job search toolkit. And I certainly would say it's probably the most recommended site that I would say for a social portfolio right now. And getting started, you simply go to the website, create an account, and start inputting data from your resume kind of as your starting point. There are several things that you can add. You don't have to add them all, but it gives you kind of an idea when you get started on different, it's going to keep suggesting, do you want to add a section about this, or do you want to add information about that? For getting started, just keeping it basic with a summary. That, again, using that profile statement off your resume can be a good starting point for a summary here on your LinkedIn profile. Basic experience, pulling some of those key accomplishments off of your resume and including it in your experience section is good. If you have specific certifications, all good things to include. But I want to share just a few quick statistics with you as to why I feel so strongly about having a social portfolio, and especially a LinkedIn.com version of that. Every year, jobvite.com publishes an annual social recruiting survey that highlights some trends that I think are things you need to be aware of. And I'm going to share results from both the 2014 and 2015 survey results, because I think you'll see it's growing. Where they used to be and where they are today, it's continuing to expand, and more recruiters and companies are using these social tools to hire and vet candidates for the positions that they're looking for candidates for. So back in 2014, when asked which of the following networks have you hired through, 73% of recruiters have hired a candidate through social media and 79% through LinkedIn. So that's why LinkedIn, by a large margin, is where I recommend you get started with social media. You'll also notice at the bottom there, though, candidate blog, 7%. I believe you'll start to see that number grow because more and more people are starting to create blogs or digital portfolio sites where they can showcase some of their areas of expertise. So this is why LinkedIn can be such a key element in your overall career organizing strategy. 93% of recruiters will review a candidate's social profile before making a hiring decision. And what are they looking at? They're looking at your professional experience, the length of professional tenure, industry-related posts, mutual connections that you may have, specific hard skills, whether or not they think you're going to be a cultural fit, and examples of written or design work. So again, if you can link your digital portfolio to your LinkedIn profile, or even just share work samples with some of the tools that are available within the LinkedIn profile settings directly, it's another way for you to be a few steps ahead of the other candidates that are potentially applying for the same jobs or being considered for similar positions. Which of the following tactics do you use in recruiting or for recruiting on social networks? You can see with LinkedIn, they're using it to search for candidates, to contact candidates, keep tabs on potential candidates, vet them pre-interview, and to post jobs. So from a career strategy perspective, LinkedIn is the place to be. In the 2015 Recruiter Nation survey, which is the new name that JobVite has given their social recruiting survey results, you'll see here that only 4% of the recruiters that they surveyed don't use social media in the recruiting process. And this is just a year after that previous survey. 87% are using LinkedIn, 55% Facebook, so that's a big increase from what it had been previously, 47% Twitter, and they're even using sites like Pinterest and Instagram and Google Plus and Periscope. So your social media presence makes a difference. And what matters most to recruiters and what doesn't? So for everyone who's debating whether or not you need a cover letter or not, you can see here 63% rated cover letters as being an important factor. So that's why I think you still need to have at least some sort of a cover letter template in your job search toolkit so that you're prepared. And depending on the age of the recruiter or the type of company you're applying for, it can still be important for you to have. And social media, what are they looking for? The biggest thing that they notice is the length of the average job tenure. And then they're looking at mutual connections, commitment to professional organizations, examples of written or design work. So again, that digital portfolio or having work samples posted on your social media site within LinkedIn can be a really good thing for helping you make yourself stand apart from the others that they're also looking at. So your professional social portfolio using LinkedIn.com. Some of the components you want to pay attention to, making sure you have your name on there, some sort of a headline with either your job title or your personal branding statements, where you're located, a custom URL. You're going to be able, LinkedIn will automatically assign a linkedin.com/in/ some version of your name, possibly with some numbers associated with it. You can go in and edit that so that it's, just your name, or if someone else is using a similar name, maybe adding your middle initial or your middle name to it so that it's an easier URL for you to share with people. And then looking at, making sure you have a professional headshot. One of the statistics I saw on the JobVite site was that 25% of recruiters see selfies negatively. So more reasons to have a good professional headshot of yourself that you can use with your social portfolio. And there's some other sections or ideas listed in your handout for the various components that you can include on your social portfolio site in LinkedIn, but at least get started with some of the basics with that, the summary, your experience, and any specific skills that you have, and a good headline and personal branding statements, and you'll be off and running in using LinkedIn very successfully in representing yourself professionally. The final section we're going to look at today is creating a strategic career plan. Just like the company you work for has a strategic plan guiding it to success, you need one also. So what is a strategic career plan? Well, quite simply, it is a combination of your personal vision, mission, and goals used to guide your professional growth and development. So it's for individuals who want to grow, remain competitive, or become more competitive in their fields. And it really becomes a tool for helping you make important decisions about how you allocate your time, money, and energy in pursuing your goals. It's what helps you make good decisions about potential things to help you be more successful. Why do you create one? Well, it helps you analyze where you're at and where you're headed. It helps you better understand where you are right now in getting to where you want to be. And it helps you embrace a proactive approach to creating your own personalized strategic career plan. So most plans cover 3 key areas. And those key areas are: where are you now? Where are you going, and how do you get there? So when you look at where you are now, think about the past year or maybe the past couple of years. What goals did you achieve? What worked well and why? What goals did you not accomplish? What maybe got in the way or caused you to get held up in accomplishing those? That will help you evaluate where you make some choices and decisions next when we look at where are you going. When I look at this section of my strategic career plan, one of the things I often ask myself is, why am I an administrative professional? And in this day and age, why am I an administrative professional trainer? Why did I choose this field? Or for some of you, maybe this field chose you. Maybe this wasn't your career of choice, but now you've figured out that it's an awesome field to be in. Why are you here? What got you here? What is it that gives you excitement about getting out of bed every day and going to your job? Because there's one universal rule of planning: you're never going to be greater than the vision that guides you. So if you don't know what you want for yourself, you're not ever going to achieve it. You'll stay stuck or stalled out right where you're at. And that's why having a personal vision and mission that's part of your overall strategic career plan helps you know, this is what my potential is, this is why I get out of bed every day. we're not going to spend time today creating a personal mission statement, but I do encourage you to create one for yourself if you haven't. The best tool that I have come across for doing this is the Franklin Covey site. You go franklincovey.com/MSB for Mission Statement Builder. It is the most awesome tool for helping you put into words what it is that fires you up about getting out of bed in the morning and doing what you do best. And being able to put that in print gives you some things to be able to see it on paper that allows you to make some choices around how you spend money, how you spend time, how you invest effort into things that are important to you. As part of this, you're also going to look at what are some of the critical success factors for helping you accomplish or achieve what you want to accomplish. What are the skills that are needed? What are the resources that you need? What are some of the organizations that you may need to connect with or become part of that can help you become or get more closely aligned with what it is you want to do next? And how will you get there? This is where your plan becomes that true roadmap to success. So you begin by writing down all of the things that you need to do to get to where you want to be. So that might be certifications, it might be some education or training that you need to complete, it might be engaging with a mentor or a coach, putting your personal branded resume package together, creating your professional portfolio, maybe an association membership is something you should look at, networking both online and in person, publications or books to read, audios or training courses to attend. These are all things that can help you achieve your goals and objectives and get you where you want to be. Now I share some screenshots in your handout. You can also download templates for these tools on our website at allthingsadmin.com and at theorganizedadmin.com. But if you take your career objectives for the year and map them out, and I recommend you have, anywhere from 3 to 5, something that's attainable, and then enlist an accountability partner to keep you on track, and review these things on a monthly basis so that you keep making progress towards them. With each objective then, breaking it down even finer into what are the individual steps or tasks involved, what are the resources that you need to complete each step along the path, a targeted completion date to help keep you on track, and then logging the actual completion date so that you have some accountability built in with yourself, but then can also use this either in reviewing it with your supervisor or with your accountability partner or your mentor or your coach. These are some ways that you can take those things you're trying to achieve in your career and turn them into tangible, positive outcomes on the other side. So I've got the blank versions in a template form that you can download and have access to help you. As we wrap things up today, I want to share 7 tips for staying prepared for anything. And these are very common sense, but I just want to reiterate them because I run into so many assistants who find themselves in positions of being unprepared when change finds them. So the first thing is to always keep your professional network alive and active. Don't start showing up at networking events, and don't try to start your social media presence the day after you lose your job. You need to have a professional network that is alive and well and ready to support you and to provide that safety net for you at a moment's notice. And that means nurturing it every single day, all throughout your career. The second thing is to always have your resume up to date. When changes come upon you, whether they're welcomed or not, having to pull your resume out and try to update it for the last year or 2 years or 5 years or worse yet 10 years is miserable. You're not going to put your best effort into it at that point. So always keeping it up to date and putting a few minutes in every month is going to pay off in big dividends later. I promise you that. And same thing applies with your professional portfolio. It's much easier to keep it up to date than to have to get it up to date urgently. Consistently watch the job postings. This is going to help you know what are the trends, what are the skills that are being asked for, what are the areas that are hiring, what are the salaries that are being offered. This keeps you current on what you can expect both in your current position and in other positions you may apply for. And be willing to step out of your comfort zone and learn new things at work. I know it's easy to say, I'm already so busy, I don't have time to do more. But sometimes expanding that comfort zone allows you to step into other opportunities when they come along much more quickly than having to get yourself up to speed again on a new skill or a new area or learning something different that is completely foreign to you. Be on the lookout for new opportunities even when you don't need them. If you have an active LinkedIn profile that is as solid as it needs to be, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised at the number of opportunities that you'll start to see even if you aren't actively looking for them. And if you haven't already found someone to provide some mentoring or some accountability for you in your career, I encourage you to do that. I have had several people throughout my career who have been mentors or colleagues that I could rely on to bounce ideas off of to kind of be that gut check for me. And it has been immensely valuable in keeping me on a more focused, straight path, especially when things get a little bit crazy or changes come upon me unexpectedly that I wasn't quite as prepared for as I probably should have been. The ride is not always going to be smooth. Things are not always going to go according to plan, and the process is not always going to be pretty. But having a plan gives you more options than having no plan at all. And you can course correct much more adeptly and quickly when you have a plan in place. And I think this quote from Brian Tracy is a great way to sum this up. If you wish to achieve worthwhile things in your personal and career life, you must become a worthwhile person in your own self-development. Every single one of us is one business decision away from having our professional lives turned upside down. But you can take control of the situation more quickly if your career toolkit is complete, current, and includes all of the items that you need to quickly activate your network and transition yourself into a different company or position. Your job search toolkit contains the key career components that help you proactively weather the business decisions that you least expect. And I'm going to end with one of the quotes from Joan Bird. She's the founder and CEO of Office Dynamics. And she shared this at her annual conference last year, and I thought this summed it up best. Security doesn't lie within a company. It lies within you. And so putting the specific career organization techniques into place that we've talked about today will give you the best job security that you could possibly hope for in this day and age. So I've got a plan of action to take you through some of the basic steps that we talked about today and to help you make this a priority in the coming days as you put some of these strategies into place. And the first thing is to take that career preparedness quiz and see where you need to focus your attention first. Then you can download the free templates package that we have at theorganizedadmin.com. And I also encourage you to explore the resources and samples that we share there. Find your resume and get it updated. If you can't get it done today, then schedule it for sometime this week, but please make this a priority. And then I want you to get started working on that professional portfolio. If you have one, fantastic. Let's see what we can do to get it refreshed and updated. If you don't have one, begin gathering work samples that you want to include. LinkedIn profile is next. If you don't have one, I want you to start exploring what you need to do to get one created. Or if you do have one but you haven't touched it in a while, let's do an update and a refresh on that so that it's as current as it can possibly be. We're going to have you create that accomplishments list document, and over the course of the day, as you think of things, open it, add things to it, but at the very least at the end of each week, I want you to go and make sure you just kind of highlight some of the things you did this week. They don't have to be, earth-shaking, but things that you consider to be an accomplishment, that you got done, that you contributed to, that you can potentially highlight on your annual performance review or list as an accomplishment on your resume when it comes time to make those updates next. We talked a little bit about strategic career plans today. In that template package that you download from theorganizedadmin.com, we have a free strategic career planning report that gets you started on that process. And some of the things we talked about today certainly tie into that as well. And then commit to taking positive forward action on your goals daily. One small step each day. Doesn't have to be doing all of these things all at once. Pick one thing, take one step on it. And as you get that completed, give yourself credit for it, celebrate, pick the next thing, and then start working with that. This is how you get put in the driver's seat of what happens to you with your career. And this is how you stay as organized as you possibly can be for the most important thing of all, your career livelihood. So I want to thank you all for joining us for this presentation. We look forward to having you back again next month. If you want to connect with us on our website or through any of our social media sites, we encourage you to do that here. And we wish you all a very productive day. Thanks for being here, everyone.